Okay, hello everyone. Here we are with James Humecky, one of our teachers at Quilt 2024. James, lovely to have you here. Just introduce yourself.
Well, thank you, Alex. My name is James Humecky, and I am a long time, would say, the body worker, massage therapist, somatic practitioner, educator, teacher. Been doing this for, well, at least 30 years, and then moving into other aspects over the last 20 years, and then like really refining what I'm doing now, the coaching over the last 10 years.
Awesome. Okay, so tell us about the workshop that you're doing.
So awareness for artistry. It was so interesting when you asked me if I might want to do a workshop, and I had to sort of wrap my head around like, well, what? I'm not a quilter, just so y'all know that. I do like crafts. I do collage and photography is mostly what I do. But the same methods and tools that would help a business person or somebody who's experienced trauma in their life or an athlete, these same tools and methods can help an artist, because what you're doing is you're looking into your own body, you're assessing your own state, and you're learning how to try to put it simply, you're learning how to shift your perspective and your perception so that you can utilize what might be considered kind of negative energy, like anxiety or procrastination, or that infamous artist's block. Okay, and being able to utilize that same energy and move it in a different direction to help you to help your creativity and productivity, if you want.
So is that what somatics is moving this energy around?
So there's a lot. This is a really good question, because somatics is one of those terms that has developed over the last, I would say, maybe 2 decades, that has a lot of meanings different for different people and for how you're utilizing it, right? So the term comes from the Greek word soma, which is body, and then it was kind of much more general. It'd be a body of soldiers, it could be your body, it could be a living body, it could be a dead body, it was just a body, basically. That's the way I understood the etymology. And then as the concept has developed, and then coming through like the human potential movement, especially here in Northern California, it's become basically looked at as like your whole body. So like the idea of the separation of the mind and body, somatics is saying they're the same thing. They're one and the same. They're all part of the same organism, and they all work together. So you can't separate one out from the other. And then another way that it's utilized and it has been developed is to help people, let's say, that have been in talk therapy for a long time, to actually move or utilize what they learned in talk therapy and actually make changes in the way that they're perceiving and proceeding through life. It's really, so it can include touch. It's very body centered. It's dance. It's breath. It's any kind of movement. It's I call it sensation based awareness. Is what it. So when you can pay attention and just name the sensation in your body, your heartbeat, how hot or cold you are, that sensation. Maybe you have the twisting in the gut, or because if you just say I'm happy, what does happy feel like, right?
Mm.
If you say I'm angry, what does angry feel like, right? That's what we're trying to get to.
And how would that help an artist in the development of their art?
Right. So another aspect of somatics, and it's not just me, but this is one of the big parts that I've really grasped onto, let's say, is the awareness part. So some people call it mindfulness, right?
Hmm.
The whole mindfulness movement, meditation, all of that kind of stuff. So by slowing yourself down enough to be able to name the sensations in your body, right? What happens is we're not going to get into too much of the psychology of it, but you bypass the label of the emotion. This is not to say that emotions don't exist or that they aren't valid. It's just saying you can go underneath that, right? And so you're not stuck in like, oh, I'm angry, I'm anxious, I'm traumatized, whatever it is that you're feeling, right? Um, and you also can bypass the story of why you feel that way. I'm no good. My mom did this to me. Society sucks. Whatever, whatever kind of story you have here, right? So you got that, you get the emotion, and then you get to the sensation. And you can tell, that's the place where I say you can tell the absolute truth.
Mm.
If my heart is beating fast, I can say my heart is beating fast. Once I translate that into I'm scared, and then I translate that into this story of whatever I'm doing is invalid. That's one of the things that artists deal with a lot is like imposter syndrome, right?
Mm.
Is what I'm doing is not valid. It's not good enough. It's that whole comparison thing. There's a lot of layers to that. So coming underneath all of that and just coming into like, here's the sensation. My gut's churning, my heart's beating. I feel anxious. I feel like tight inside, and you can recognize that through some of these tools that I'm going to teach, like with breath and movement, self massage, different things like this. You can begin to break the cycle. So this helps break that cycle of that cyclical thinking. That's the word I'm looking for. And then you can begin to just feel the energetics of what's happening in your body. And then you can from there, you can make a decision. I'm going to use this energy to whatever that is. I'm going to, do this next phase of this project. I am going to just, do the painting or the quilt or I'm going to write the thing, and that's it, right? So you can redirect that energy. If you're still stuck in the story and the emotional label, right? I know I've experienced this 100 times or more, or maybe thousands of times, where it's like, the emotion, the story, and I can't get out of it.
Yeah.
So a lot of this work is developed because of the things that I've had to work through for my own self. So I love bringing that to other people.
Well, talking of that, one of the things that surprised me about you, or well, shouldn't do in retrospect, is that you're a former Marine.
Yeah.
And so how does a former Marine end up doing this type of work?
well, okay. So here's the military, right? You take angry, uh, disaffected, young men, and you stick them in a place and teach them how to kill people, right? So
Mm.
you're taking that energy, and what they've done is redirect it towards something that is, quote, you know, for the greater good, or
Yeah.
I mean, I will say that it actually kind of saved my life in many ways, but yeah, but then there's afterwards, right? And just because they were able to help me shift that energy for 4 years or 6 years or whatever I was in, um, didn't mean that I actually was able to address the underlying issues, right? So then there's the subsequent years where I had to figure that out, and then went down a lot of different paths, and then by the time I hit 40, that's when I came into more professional massage therapy, body work, and this whole study of the soma and then in all of that. And one of the things that I figured out, right, because I was in that sort of like, yeah, how do I be a filler over here and a healer over here? How do I do that, right? Like, how do I
Mm.
bring it together? This is another example of shifting the energetics, right? The same energy, or the same, let me take that back. The same points on the body that are used as kill points or submission points are more often than not these really wonderful healing points in the body. You know, if you go into like acupressure and acupuncture, and you'll find, you know, like some of these things, you know, where you know, it's like if you just hit somebody the right way, if you have the right attitude and the right angle, you can knock them out, you can kill them, you can do all kinds of stuff. But if you do it this way and slow it down and soften it up and have, you know, more, you know, heart and love towards people, then you can actually, people can actually have these incredible cathartic releases, and, you know, things can move that haven't moved for years and stuck, you call it, you know, issues in the tissues kind of. So, you know, it's all that. And, you know, I want to just kind of backtrack just a half a second, is that in this workshop, we're not looking to dig into your trauma and trying to like get you into a cathartic release. What we are trying to do, my purpose is to give you some tools so that when you sit down to do something and you go like, I don't know what to do, the mind goes blank, which happens to me quite a bit, then you can actually come inside, you can do a couple of these things. There's really going to be a really nice movement exercise and a breathwork exercise and a mindfulness exercise. And yeah, so then hopefully you can, you know, shift that and proceed with whatever project it is that you're wanting to do.
That's fascinating that places that can be used to cause harm can also be used to cause healing.
Right. I mean, it's a fact.
Yeah. Gosh, wow. Okay, I'm going to need to think about that.
And usually what that, and, you know, just you know, as a little clarification, usually what it means is slowing down. So when you're trying to hurt somebody or like really harm somebody, it's usually a quicker motion, right? A punch or whatever it is. And but when you're working to help somebody and you just slow down, then, you know, the pressure goes slower and slower and slower, so that the person, whether it's a client or a friend or a lover or whatever it is, can actually by degrees integrate the work, integrate the pressure, integrate the unwinding of whatever's happening in the body, which is oftentimes very psychosomatic. Feldenkrais, actually, Moshe Feldenkrais, he one of, I mean, he's long since dead, but his work has been very influential in my work. And you know, one of the things he said is that there is no emotion without posture, and no posture without emotion. So he was like an early developer of, you know, the ideas of how somatics is being used today. He also called consciousness kinesthetic awareness, which is sensation-based awareness. It's body awareness. You know, your consciousness is based on.
Who's been some other influences in your work?
Well, yeah, Feldenkrais has been, I've read all of his books that I would highly recommend too. They're a little, they're a little bit deep sometimes, like kind of hard to, thick, I guess is the word I would look at. You know, that kind of person where you like read a couple of paragraphs and you're like, oh, I think I need to read that again.
Yeah,
But very, very wise, and obviously also writing in a style that is, you know, not modern. And so like my original massage teacher, this guy named Fred Midtower, has been a really good influence in that way. Like the way he taught was like, you know, definitely taught us technique, but also taught us to trust ourselves in what we are bringing personally as a practitioner into a session, right? Whether it's our history, our skill sets, you know, the way we feel that day. So that's one of the places where I first got the idea that as a therapist, it's not you doing something to somebody else. even in the position of a therapist, it is an interaction between two people, and it takes both people, no matter how much of that professional objectivity you keep or need to keep or want to keep, right? There's the complete influence. And in that, along that lines, Fritjof Capra, I don't know if you've ever read The Web of Life and the Tao of Physics and different things like that. So, talking about the interconnectedness of all, like really in a very scientific way. Plus, through him, I was introduced to a lot of other people whose names I can't even really remember right now. But so, I've studied systems theory, I've studied complexity theory, chaos theory, I've studied information theory. These things, it's all autodidactic. I didn't go to college for that, but I've been studying that stuff for 30 years, and it may seem different and separated, but actually it highly informs my work. It informs the way that I move through life, period. Because it's shifted my perception, not just mentally or intellectually, but physically, like how, like even in this, there's our bodies are porous. We're not just these solid static structures, where bodies are porous, and we're deeply intertwined with each other, with the earth, with the cosmos. I'm not going to go too far into all of that because it can get kind of woo-woo, and I'm not trying to do that. But yeah, it's taken, actually through that, it's taken a lot of what would be considered sort of woo-woo or metaphysical or whatever, and put it into like these real concrete, scientific, physical forms that are sometimes like easier to grasp, So when I work with people, that's the attitude that I bring into my sessions, no matter what I'm doing.
Well, that's a very wide range of influences, and I know that you've also traveled extensively as well. Tell us a bit about that.
Yeah, well, I started traveling when I was in the service, and so I got to go to Japan a couple of times, and Korea, and the Philippines, and Hong Kong, and a number of other places. But all my life, I was actually really drawn to the Latin culture, and so what, it was in about 93, I scooped up my kids and moved to Nicaragua. Ended up staying there for 2.5 years that time, and that was pretty amazing. Learned Spanish and got to work with just some amazing people in the nonprofit world and building schools and all that kind of stuff. And then I came back and finished raising the children. And then as the story goes, my son graduated high school, and I said, okay, I'm leaving home. He was already, working and pretty much out and off and running, and my daughter was already out, and so it wasn't quite as drastic as that might sound, but it, and with the full intention of traveling around the world, and at the time I was running a pretty substantial business of my own, and just kind of walked away from it because I was feeling sick. Really. And so I went traveling, but I ended up back in Nicaragua, and again, just kind of staying there for most of the next 5 or 6 years. And that was amazing, because that actually introduced me to people from all over the world. So now I have people in Germany and Spain and Colombia and Israel, and then people lived at our house, and so it was really amazing. And that second time I went back as a massage teacher and therapist, and doing a lot of this somatic work. Actually, one of the first workshops I taught was a men's workshop, actually, which I need to dig that out again and kind of brush it off and maybe do that again. But and then over the years I was invited to go to Palestine and work with a nonviolence movement there, a Palestinian nonviolence movement, and that was incredibly informative and yeah, really heart touching, and getting to know the people and like really being in the situation. So now I kind of understand what the feeling of being under constant occupation feels like,
Mm.
and also what it feels like to um, be in a space where people have such divergent views and who are trying to really form a cohesive bond and language and place for everybody. So that's one of the main big things that I really got to experience there. It was quite beautiful. And then yeah, last year I took off in my van, like let's see, yeah, I guess February 2021. No, wait, what year is this? Is 23, right?
It's
So
23, yeah.
2022.
Yeah. But
In
people will be watching
2022.
it in 24.
Yeah, and I took off in my van, traveled all the way across the states, and I ended up in Hawaii a number of times, where I actually ended up living for um like the last 8 months or so. And yeah, got to teach at some nice conferences and around the country, and again spend time in places that I'd never really been to, like the South, the American South. It
Right.
is an experience.
Yeah. I have not been myself, but do intend to go. And now you're settled in Northern California. Do you think you'll be sticking around for a while, or
Yeah,
is there more
yeah.
travel to be done?
No, I mean, definitely going to be traveling, but it's shifted. So now I feel like I'm in a place where like, part of going to Maui was to actually root down and kind of end the traveling for traveling's sake time. I tell people I got to do my 20s and my 40s,
Mm.
maybe with a little more wisdom and more money. So it was awesome, right? I felt like that backpacker guy. Most of the time I was the oldest guy in the room. It's like, it was awesome. And so yeah, it's time to just kind of settle in and bring all of that together, and really put forward my coaching practice. And yeah, so yes, I am going to be around for sure.
Excellent. Well, we've got your business and website links on your teacher page. So if anyone in
Mm-hmm.
Northern California is interested in booking sessions with you, they know where to find you. And then I think you're offering some on-demand content as well, right, for people to
Right.
access, or will be by the time this goes live.
Well, I mean, like I said, on my YouTube channel, there's all kinds of stuff in there. If you want
Oh,
to learn how to do a full-on Thai massage or table massage or something like that, you can find all of that on my YouTube channel, actually, and a lot of instruction around breath work and movement, and because I do yoga, but yoga's not like my main thing anymore. It's become what I call, well, not what I call it, it's called locomotion. It's crawling, rolling, jumping. It's a natural movement. It's primal movement. It's how, it's called a lot of different things, but it's basically just getting up or laying down and moving your body in as many different planes as possible, and varying it up. So, for instance, you might do a one leg balance, but while you're doing that balance, instead of like being in tree pose in yoga, if anybody knows yoga, it's like a very static pose.
mhm.
And guys like me tend to wobble quite a bit. So
And
you
girls like
take
me.
that
Yeah.
wobble, which is life. Life is wobbly. Life is not static, right? Life is wobbly. So this is a great metaphor. And you wobble with it, and you touch the ground, and you move back up, and you just see how many different ways you can move and stay on one leg or touch the other. You know what I mean? There's not a correct or incorrect. It's more about getting the movement down. And what I found for myself and some of my clients is that those places where they have felt like they couldn't stretch, they couldn't get the mobility through like yoga or physical therapy, through this kind of work, they're able to do that because they're engaging different muscle groups and whatnot. Anyway, that's all on there. And yes, there's a specific 15-minute breath work video that will be attached to this workshop.
Yes, that will be available to attendees. That's brilliant.
Exactly. And just along the lines of the coaching too, is it's not just around Northern California. I do a lot of online work, so I can work with anybody anywhere, as long as we can get our time zones together, right. Which is sometimes a bear. But yes, I do online coaching as well. I like to do packages where I'm working with people a little bit online, some intense in person, and then some follow-ups.
Excellent. Well,
Mm-hmm.
it's been fascinating talking to you. Thanks so much for your time, and very much looking forward to doing your workshop.
Thank you, Alex. Yeah, thanks for asking me and having me on. It's awesome.
Thanks.